Right now, there are 131 million overweight Americans. A high percentage of those are senior citizens and children. We also have gone from simply being overweight to obese and even morbidly obese, so overweight that it really challenges our health. Why? Why are we at a point in our lives where we're spending almost $2 trillion on diseases? Almost anyone you speak with has something wrong with them. It's bad enough being overweight. It's worse when you consider what comes along with that overweight: a higher incidence of heart disease, including stroke, cancer, various types of pain like fibromyalgia and arthritis, and also something that so many people are suffering from today, and that is diabetes. And of course, almost exceeding all those conditions, depression. Now here's a question. Did we get overweight and then get depressed? Or were we depressed and then gained weight? Did we have heart disease, not know it, or high blood pressure, we're unaware of it, and then only by being overweight did it stress our body chemistry so much that one day we manifested a stroke or heart attack? What's the best answer? One of the popular diets? On the New York Times bestseller list just last week, 3 of the top 4 books were diet books. Is this what we should be doing? Why don't we have a national health plan sponsored by the Surgeon General or the Director of the Health and Human Services who come forward and say, here's what Americans should be doing? I'm Gary Null. I'd like to welcome you to a special program, a program that will explore in depth the whole phenomena of why we are overweight, including our children, how many of us are dying prematurely, the diseases that come from that, and isn't there a better way than simply one of the high-protein, low-carb diets? Join me now as we explore America's health and deal with the crisis in obesity. Go into almost anyone's home today and ask them what's your favorite food. Generally, it's sweet and soft or salty and crunchy, deep fried.
We are bred to be overweight. We're brought up to be overweight. Children are rewarded with desserts, punished with desserts being taken away. When you go into the schools, there are now vending machines in the schools. Teenagers today are 30% heavier than they were 20 years ago. We have not taught our children at an early age to favor healthy, good foods.
One of the biggest problems in this country are the cereals. And I'm not saying all cereals are bad, but if you walk down a supermarket's aisle and you go down that cereal aisle, I have to tell you, man, there's a lot of sugar and carbohydrate in there. And that's a problem because our children today are over-consuming sugar and sugar products.
Just look on a Saturday morning, as I recently did, at the average television commercial. Of almost all the cereals, they were all sugar-laden, refined carbohydrate, and then putting dairy on top of it, common allergens. What do you expect the outcome to be if all you're giving a child is something that is going to challenge the metabolic condition of the child? The child's going to not only be overweight, but every time they see that product in a supermarket, they're going to tell their mothers, I want that product.
The problem with the mass media is that it is basically fueled by industries and companies that are pushing various addictive substances, both on adults and children. Children do not have the faculties to be able to really look at and critically see that these substances are bad for them.
What moral responsibility do the television networks have and the people who invest in stocks of media companies that advertise for children's products to in some way say no to any product that may contribute to adverse health reactions?
I know the healthy things to eat, but I always seem to throw in those things that are not good for me, and I know that's where the weight is coming from.
I know what foods are healthy, but I guess I haven't wanted to have the discipline or the self-control to eat the right foods.
My relationship between health and weight, I think, stinks, so that needs to be made a lot better.
I just want to become healthy, and I don't think I'm healthy now.
I'd like to think that people care about their health and well-being. I don't know many people that wake up in the morning and say, gee, I want to be in more pain. I want to look down and have more fat on my abdomen. I want more cellulite. I want a turkey skin that just wobbles like that. I want to have absolutely no energy. I don't even want to be able to get out of bed. I want to be in such arthritic flare-up. And if you're a man, I never want to have sex again. I just want to be permanently impotent. Well, because I want to tell you something, if you don't pay attention to what you're doing, that's actually going to happen. How many of you can't go to sleep at night? How many of you have had trouble sleeping? How many of you, when you're overweight, you think of all the things now you can't do, right? Because when you're overweight, you adapt your overweight. Now, what if we weren't allowed by some law of the universe not to adapt? We had to transform our crisis. Well, that'd get our attention, wouldn't it? Because then you couldn't get bigger clothes. Now, could you imagine being a size 18 and trying to put yourself into a size 6 dress? But we just keep adapting. We adapt and we adapt and we adapt. Why? Because it's easy. And also because who's going to really hassle you? You're in a restaurant, you're eating an average French fry. What they got, 25, 30 French fries in there? Soaked in fat and sodium, right? Do you see anybody walk over and say, sorry, you can't have that French fry? Well, what do you mean? I just paid for it. I want it. No, you can't. It's not good for your health. So, and also that hamburger, you can only have one little piece because the actual amount of protein that you would require if you were getting it from animal proteins, only about one big tablespoon. You think a tablespoon, that's it? Yeah, a tablespoon of meat, and we can also get rid of the bun. Just a refined carbohydrate. What's in a bun? You don't need it. The bun's going to become your butt. All right? Now take a look at the bun and just visualize that's your butt. Bun butt. That's what we've got in America, bun butts. So your French fries are gone, and of course all the grease that's going to go in your body. The buns are gone, and the pickle, woo, we really need that sodium in our body, don't we? Right? Like we already have enough high blood pressure. Give me another 5,000 milligrams of sodium. My heart can take it. I'm tough. Oh. We're a nation that doesn't think a whole lot about this, but wouldn't it be funny if someone actually did that to you, and then you're left there with one little piece of meat? And then someone says, hold on a second. Now, before you eat that piece of meat, understand something. Yes, there's hormones in it, growth-stimulating hormones. Cow didn't want it. And antibiotics and pesticides and rendered animals. Cows are supposed to eat grass. What are they doing eating all kinds of other dead animals? And you're thinking, oh, that's going into me? Yes, you are what you eat. That's the only thing you can be. And then we wonder why we don't feel good. Isn't it interesting that then after we eat a meal like that, we just kind of go into a semi-comatose state? All across America. That's the only reason that people buy the big couches. Because there's that is, eat a meal and then collapse. I remember in my home, coming from just a middle-class background, my mom being able to prepare a big piece of meat, that was a big to-do. Almost every mother I knew growing up made sure that their family got the basic 4 food group. So everybody had dairy, right? All the time. And I also remember that the white bread, right? And then the vegetables, which were rare, and when you did get them, they were almost always boiled along with the roast beef, so you kind of look and say, is that a carrot or is that a potato? I'm not sure. It's been there all day. Who knows what it is? You just eat it. But you weren't really eating a meal to have your carrot or your potato. You were in it for the meat and the muffin and the margarine and the milk, or if you're an adult, coffee with sugar and all that so you can get to make room for dessert. And you're thinking, yeah, I can, and did you ever see that? People unbutton their pants. Yeah, I can make room for that, or unbuttoning, they're up here. Where's it going? It can't get in the stomach. It's going to be in your esophagus all night. And of course, it was a big piece of dessert. Nobody gave it a little tiny sliver. And of course, later, all those people got sick. It was expected when you grew up, as I did and most of you did, it was expected that when you hit 40, you would be overweight and you weren't exercising. If you had a woman in the family, she more often than not would have diabetes. But now when I look at kids and I look at them in the fast food restaurants and I see what they're eating, And I see how we're encouraging them to eat this. And I'm thinking, wow, the consequences.
Because of the horrendous diets that these children are on, which are extremely depleted of nutrients, but very high in calories, white flour, white sugar, and so on, and poor abnormal fats, hydrogenated fats, which are finally being recognized as a problem, these children actually become obese.
Children are being pandered to by the commercials, the TVs, the free promotionals in the fast food restaurants. Our children don't know any other way.
Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take you on a little journey of exploring what I feel are the most damaging parts of the American diet. And in the process of looking at what's wrong with the American diet, I'm hopeful that we can start a 4-step elimination program, going from being overweight to normal weight. Now, the key to this program is the following. I don't want you to lose weight unless you're going to be healthier in the process.
Diets don't work. If you go on a diet, inevitably you're going to go off a diet. When you're on a diet, you feel like you're deprived, like you can't have the foods that you want, and it just doesn't feel very good. Instead, it makes more sense to gradually change habits. It takes a little while to get a new habit established, but once it's established, you can maintain it without feeling badly, and then maintain the weight loss that develops.
My interest is getting you healthy. If you get healthy, the weight is normally going to come down. And I'm going to show you people in this audience who have followed this process. They haven't gained the weight back, and they're healthier today than they were back then. Every time I turn on one of the infomercials and tell, lose 43 pounds today in the next hour. $19.95 and we'll give you this, and all for, no, $12. We've seen those ads, right? And then you see some little waif of a person, so small they turn sideways, you can't see him, says, yes, I followed this. I used to be like this. Sure you do, and digital animation made you like that too. No, there shouldn't be any gimmick in any of this, and it should be easy. The hard part about doing this program is that you have to surrender all the excuses you've used in the past not to.
People who are overweight frequently feel very badly about themselves. They see themselves as being weak-willed or having no willpower, and think the kinds of things that they tell themselves, not just about their body, they don't like their body, but then that generalizes, and they don't like other parts of themselves. So that being overweight really undermines a person's sense of self-value and self-esteem.
As a nation, we tend to use food as a tranquilizer, as something that actually gives pleasure to people who are anxious, depressed, conflicted. And what happens is they get temporary highs the way somebody would get from a drug. Many people have deficiencies in certain brain chemicals called neurotransmitters. And again, depending on what their lifestyle is, they can actually become addicted to certain foods.
The biggest addiction in America is comfort addiction, trying to get people beyond believing that everything has to be instantaneous. What if we didn't choose instant gratification, but rather instead we put a realistic goal, ideal health, not just good health, not just the absence of disease, which means nothing. Just looking at someone, you don't know what's going on in the arterial walls. You don't know if their carotid artery is blocked.
The problems with obesity is that the high blood sugars, the high blood pressure that goes along with it, the high cholesterol, the high triglycerides, you don't feel it. When you're young and you're obese, you can function. It's when you get obese, when you get a little older, your body starts to go into decline.
Cancer, heart disease, diabetes, bad as they are, when you're overweight, you increase the severity and the duration and the mortality, the death. So here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to look at diets. What's wrong with diets?
I've tried low-cal diets, low-carb diets,
Weight Watchers, Trim Spa.
The cabbage soup diet, the Atkins diet, the Sugar Busters diet.
Too many to even mention.
The diets work for a while and then I eat the same way and I gain weight.
I've tried many other diets, not many of them. I really haven't had good results with anything.
I'm tired of failing at diets.
I think they failed because they were not generated specifically for my problems.
They failed because they didn't deal with me and my particular metabolism.
The concept that one diet fits all of Americans is invalid. The old adage that you can read a diet book and follow it and lose weight, and that's going to be the one to keep you healthy for life, is totally untrue.
One of the main reasons for people being overweight is the use of various fad diets, because the diets result in them becoming more stressed, becoming more depleted in neurotransmitters, so they wind up, after they reach a certain point, where it just reverses and they wind up most of the time gaining more weight than they lost in the first place.
These fad diets are not good. Right now, we have the low carbohydrate craze, which I'm not totally against as long as it's done right. But the problem with a lot of these diets, where they're giving almost no carbohydrates, you have a problem. They will cause a weight loss, but what happens after 6 months? I have had a number of patients in my practice that are on these high-fat, very high-protein, low-carbohydrate diets. They plateau. I've had a number of people that had serious health problems with it, and after a while, they will break and start to take carbohydrates and they put all the weight back on.
I was very appreciative of Atkins' research into carbohydrate reactions and insulin resistance. However, I think the diet went far too far. People who were starving, literally, and craving were so happy to know they could have an overabundance of food that they went far too high fat, far too high volume, because in the end, calories still count. You still have to know about calories. And so I think people went off the track. They're not eating healthfully, they're eating high fat, and even though they may lose weight, and some do not, even though they may lose weight, you have to consider the heart health risk as well.
Robert Atkins was a personal friend of mine, and he was also my patient. But I have a lot of ambivalence about his legacy to the science of nutrition. Unfortunately, I believe, and my belief is based on extensive experience of patients who were on Atkins diet, that almost always these people lost weight. Eventually, they gained more weight. They ended up heavier and sicker.
Everybody I know has been on a diet, and they've lost weight, and they've gained it back. You have to understand basic metabolism, and here's basic metabolism. We still have the genes of the primordials. We still have in our bodies genes that the cave dwellers had. Whatever they